the Lions are in for some. What did Mr. T say? Prediction? Pain. Guys, let's get into some Lions and Steelers. The Lions lose 26-20. Game wasn't as close as the score indicated. Justin Rogers from the Detroit News Lions beat writer joins us now on the V-Mix. Look at that. We got it, baby. Yeah, Justin.
What's happening, man?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We got you.
We see you.
All right.
We hear you.
You look good, man.
The technology is working.
It is. It's working, man. Hey, fill us in. What happened? 20-0 in the beginning of this game. It was ugly in the beginning of this game, and then of course the reserves came in to save the day at the end.
I thought I was calling to talk to Braylon about CM Punk. I guess not.
We can do that tomorrow.
You missed D-Mac about an hour ago. He would have loved it.
Yeah. So, listen, I don't want to make excuses for the Lions. You know that they've got enough people making excuses for them. But this is a game that kind of merits excuses. They approach the game entirely different than the Steelers did. The Steelers come out, they play their starters. The Lions have so many starters on the bench. I mean, you really can't even count them on two hands at that point. So looking at the second-string Lions, which the first-string Lions probably aren't going to be that good, now you get the second-string Lions against a playoff-caliber team in the Steelers. And what happened was what you'd expect to happen. You know, they kind of got run over on both offense and defense.
Justin, one of the issues, and I couldn't agree more with you about not overreacting to this game, to either of these games. They're not showing anything, whatever the case may be. But there is something that is giving me a little bit of concern, and I'm not even going to go to Jelani Tavai yet. Jeff Okudah, to me, you know, we got burned on that 43-yard gain, whether it was a miscommunication or a physical error or a mental error, whatever the case may be. He has not looked good. I don't know how he looks in practice. I don't know what's going on with him. And look, I don't want to make excuses for the guy, but he's the number 3 overall pick in the draft a year ago, and you just don't see it. Is there should we be concerned is the question that I have for you.
Good question.
Yeah, no, I think it's premature to be concerned. And listen, you say you can't see him on practice. I'll tell you right now, the difference between Jeff Okudah year 1 on practice and year 2 in practice is night and day. This is a guy that looks comfortable, confident. He's assuming like a natural leadership position. I thought he looked pretty good in week 1 of the preseason. And then, yeah, you have that long bomb that he gives up, and that is concerning. There's no other way around it. That was a big problem for him last year was the long speed. And so we had a chance to talk to Aubrey Pleasant today, the defensive backs coach, and that came up, and he said what happened there was Jeff basically got a little greedy. He saw something, he tried to drive down on the route, maybe looking for an interception, and he got beat deep because of it. Probably should have some help on that backside with the safety that didn't come there. That's also a problem. But the way Jeff responded in that game, I think, is also a telling sign. There was a run play near the goal line where he sealed the edge and drove down and pushed that play inside that led to a stop short of a touchdown. And then he also had a pass breakup in the end zone. So, I asked Pleasant, so many coaches, the worst thing a guy can do is give up big plays. And I said, how do you balance aggression versus giving up big plays? And he said, I don't want guys to be scared to take chances. He goes, I'm not as scared as a coach. I don't want these guys to be scared. And so he's not mad at Okudah for taking that chance and getting beat deep, but he wants him to take that opportunity to learn from it. I think Jeff's going to be fine. I really do. Will he ever live up to being the number 3 pick? That is a very, very tall order. But I think he's going to be a good cornerback in this league for a long time, and I think you're going to see in season 2 significant strides from the way he performed as a rookie.
And Justin, that's part of the problem too, and maybe some unnecessary or unrealistic expectations on any fan's part is not that he's a first round pick. I mean, I think he was the highest defensive back selected since Sean Springs in '98 or something like that. So it's not like this happens every year. So it's like with that comes really, really high expectations. Where you get picked is significant.
And that's not fair to the guy, right? Like that's a criticism of the general manager, and that general manager doesn't have a job in part for decisions like that. But we did the same thing to Eric Ebron. He was treated like he was a top 10 pick that he was, but listen, if Eric Ebron was selected at the top of the second round and he produces the same way, we're probably okay, he's decent. Yeah, the drops are still annoying, but the production is more in line with the value you expect of a selection at that point. TJ Hawkinson faces the same thing. Listen, TJ Hawkinson's already a Pro Bowler in his second year. He's living up to expectations as his first round draft pick, but to be the number 8th overall pick, you have to almost be Travis Kelce or George Kittle, and Hawkinson's still significantly away from that in terms of his production. He's still got a lot of room to grow. Maybe he'll get there, but we're holding him hostage to where he was drafted, and the player has no control over where a team selects him.
There's no doubt.
Justin Rogers, Detroit News, Lions beat writer, joining us. You can catch him on Twitter, Justin_Rogers. Let's stay out in the secondary. How about a guy that was, I think he was a third-round pick, if I'm not mistaken, maybe fourth, Will Harris.
Yeah. I think that's another guy that, compared to Jelani Tavai, right? The expectations are high. You get drafted in the third round as a safety. You get starting minutes or snaps as a rookie, and you really expect this natural progression of growth. And in year 3, it really should be fully clicking for Will Harris. And this coaching staff has been very supportive for him. They've built him up, I think, in a positive way. And I'm still not seeing it on the field. It's still not clicking on the field. It's really, really strange because physically all the gifts are there. You look at his combine metrics versus Tracy Walker's combine metrics, and Harris is better across the board. And listen, you go to Boston College, you're not dumb, right? That's a smart guy. He's an accountable guy. He's a hard worker. And it's kind of like Jared Davis when Jared Davis was here. All the tools, all the off-field stuff was there to be a football player that you want on your roster, and on the field it's just not clicking, And so we saw Harris. We talk about that deep ball that Okudah gave up. It was Harris that had been there to giving him support in the back end, or one of the touchdowns to the tight end. Jalen Reeves may have been bit on the pump fake, but not nearly, or the double move, but not nearly as much as Will Harris, who dove down, tried to get the interception, and allowed that tight end to turn that out route into an out and up for the easy touchdown. So you'd like to see better play there. I really think that he's going to start, and they're going to evaluate him through the course of the season on whether he's part of the long-term future here. But as of right now, this moment, second safety is a big spot of need for this roster going forward. And look at Tracy Walker as a free agent too. They may completely revamp that safety room next year.
Ryan Armani, Tom Mazaway in for our main man, Braylon Edwards today. Justin Rogers, Detroit News, Lions beat writer, joining us. We just talked about Will Harris, a couple of the other guys, Jelani Tavai. You wrote a great article today. You were giving your thoughts on who you think would be the first team, second team, possibly sticking with the team, and guys that are on the bubble. You got to cut down to 80 tomorrow. What's your thoughts right now, JR?
I have invested a lot of time into looking what goes down to 85 to 80. Those are guys that are so far away from making the roster. They're probably not even going to be practice squad guys. You look at some spots where maybe they've got some extra depth and they can afford it. They've got 4 quarterbacks right now. Maybe a fourth one doesn't make it to that third preseason game. But, I'm not investing a whole lot of time into those moves that are going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be more what happens after that third preseason game and how do they get down to 53.
Hey, Justin, I want to go to the offensive side of the ball. We talk about last year's first-round pick. What about this year's first pick, Penei Sewell? Here's a guy that didn't play football last year. He moved positions. It's not going to happen overnight. And there looks to be some growing pains as expected. What do you make of his camp so far?
Yeah, I think you absolutely nailed it in terms of growing pains, right? You think left tackle to right tackle is easy. In your head, it's easy. It's I just changed the guy in the Madden roster and he handles it just fine. But in reality, I've talked to different guys over the years, and the comparisons they frequently use is, it's like being a right-handed person, then suddenly asked to do your daily task, whether it's eating or writing or wiping your butt with your opposite hands, right? It's just something completely different. And so, he's naturally fighting through some of that. And the benefit now is that the preseason doesn't matter. So he gives up a sack in that first game. This week he gets Melvin Ingram, one of the better speed rushers in the NFL, a guy with fresh legs who sat out there on the free agency market a little bit longer than I think maybe people expected. And Sewell struggled with that speed, and I think Dan Campbell secretly likes that. Like, he likes the fact that Sewell's taken these lumps early, because if you go back and you look at Taylor Decker, very first preseason game, also against the Steelers, lines up against James Harrison. And listen, Harrison was long in the tooth at that point, but still a pretty productive guy. And he just wrecked Decker on one of those first snaps in the first quarter, just blew by him, sack, forced a fumble on Stafford. And it's important for those guys to see it live, to see what a professional athlete looks like at their position, because there is going to be this acclimation period. So get it out of the system now. The book on Sewell is, look, this guy makes mistakes, but not only does he make them, he identifies the flaw and corrects them quickly. We're not privy to all that film work right now, but we'll see it in the regular season how quickly that he's able to adjust to the lumps he's taken right now.
Justin, do you like the way that Jared Goff's camp is going so far? Do you like the way that Dan Campbell has held him out of these games? Do you think he should play, in the next? It doesn't look like Jared Goff is going to play in any of these preseason games. Well, he didn't play against Pittsburgh. He won't play most likely against Indianapolis. Do you like that move? I mean, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't on the injury front, but it'll be a month by the time he played the first preseason game, the series or two, and the Niners.
I feel like your network in general likes the more positive approach, but I would be being disingenuous if I told you what I've seen from Jared Goff right now. Now, let me preface that by saying it's a new quarterback, new coaches, new offensive scheme, new wide receivers. Just like we were talking about Sewell, it doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of chemistry to be built. But listen, Goff's practices have really not inspired a ton of confidence going forward. It's nothing I've seen on the practice field where I say, this is the guy for sure, not just this year, but going into the forward in the future. I really think it's wide open and maybe even likely to say that they draft a quarterback, and Goff looks more like a bridge guy at the moment than he does a long-term starter. In terms of the approach rate in preseason games, I don't like that either. I just don't. I look at the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger. Like, of all the guys in the world that don't need preseason reps, Ben Roethlisberger's out there playing three series against the Lions in their third preseason game. The Lions are holding Goff out despite all this newness, and really that newness showing on the practice field, showing in preseason one. I think he should be out there playing. The downside is his receivers have been hurt. Hawkinson's been hurt. They're trying to manage reps with Ragnow and Decker. So I don't know if you want to necessarily put him in a bad situation. A lot of this training camp, even though it's not been stated, has been about Jared Goff's mental and building up his confidence and putting him in situations where he'll succeed on the practice field, whether it's the defensive assignments they're putting against him or the situations they're putting him in to utilize his best skills. So maybe you don't want to put him in a situation where his confidence rattles more, but I think he could certainly use more reps, and that goes with most of the offense.
Totally agree with you.
Speaking of quarterbacks, JR, we saw the backups fight it out, if you want to call it that. Tim Boyle struggled mightily. David Blau came in the second half, looked a lot better. What's your take on those guys?
Yeah, listen, I mean, Blau has been the better performer in the two preseason games, but I think you have to take into account the competition level of the defenses he's playing, right? We talked about The Steelers played most of their starters. I know TJ Watt wasn't out there. I didn't really dig deep enough to know what other starters they were sitting, but they had most of their starting defense out there, and the Lions were missing Ragnow, Decker, Tyrell Williams, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, TJ Hawkinson, like basically the entire offense. And you throw the backup out there and you say, go beat the Steelers. I can't say I'm surprised at the results as they were. Listen, Boyle wasn't perfect. He had some throws that he misfired on. Blau came in with his opportunity. You can only knock down the pin set up in front of you, and he did better. Listen, he made some throws where he put him in dangerous spots and got away with it as well, but the final stat line, night and day difference. At this point, I think from what I've seen on the practice field, I think Boyle is the better quarterback. I think he has the better skill set. He certainly has the better arm. Probably the strongest arm of all the quarterbacks on the roster. He's got some mobility, probably the most mobility of all the quarterbacks on the roster. So I think that's going to be enough to help him keep that backup job. But I'd also lean right now that the Lions probably keep three. I think Blau's done enough. He is very, very well liked in the building. He's a smart guy that I think can help in the room in terms of film study and prep, and that's an important part of the quarterback position. And if you try to expose him to the waivers and you let another team or all 31 teams have a shot at him, I kind of think he would get claimed.
Hey, a couple of guys that are probably on the bubble. The guy they signed 2 weeks ago, Craig Reynolds, comes in. He's got 2 touchdowns. The kid, he's a hustler. I love Tom Kennedy. I've liked this guy from the get-go. On this wide receiver roster, can he make this team? And should he make this team?
Yeah, let's start with the running backs, right? We got 3 locks probably. You got Swift, Williams, and the rookie Jamar Jefferson. Fullbacks, obviously, Cabinda's in that spot too. So maybe that's enough, but maybe you want a fourth. And I have a hard time believing they're ready to go with Reynolds at that spot, just based on his usage in these first 2 preseason games. But man, what a performance for a guy that just gets dropped into the mix the day before the game. That 24-yard touchdown run that first week was incredible. He comes back. I'm going off the top of my head, but I think it was 6 carries, 25 or 29 yards, another touchdown, another nice touchdown run. So, and look they put him on some kickoffs. Like they're trying to tease out some other versatility elements out of him. He's had a really exciting week here. I think he'll get some more playing time in week 3. And, I don't think practice squad's a bad spot. I don't. Running backs are a dime a dozen. That's just unfortunately the way it's developed in this league. I think you can get by with exposing them to waivers, and that's a great guy to have in the practice squad if Williams or Jefferson were to get banged up. As a guy you could call up and clearly you can trust to do a little bit. And in the wide receiver room, listen, I talked about the quarterback play and it maybe not being ideal. The wide receivers, we've talked about it a ton all offseason. This is not an exciting group. It's not. Rashad Perriman was a guy that, kind of penciled in as starter after the draft and free agency and said, okay, well, he's been hurt. And when he's been on the field, he hasn't been good.
Just a couple of good games in Tampa. That was it.
Yeah. He's got crazy speed, and speed and size are things in the NFL. You'll keep getting chances, but durability has been a problem for him, and he has struggled to stay on the field during this training camp. And so, I think that's kind of put him on the roster bubble despite some guaranteed money attached to that deal. Amon-Ra St. Brown is developing nicely. Looks like a solid slot receiver. I keep comparing his game to maybe late career Anquan Bolden. He's not going to be a big yak guy. He's going to be a chain mover that's kind of one of the more physical types of slot receivers, right? He's going to bully you a little bit and he can block for you. At the bottom of the roster, Kennedy's a really interesting name. Listen, he has led the Lions in receiving the first 2 preseason games. The problem is he doesn't play outside. He's probably the number 3 slot guy behind St. Brown and Khalif Raymond, and he's probably the number 2 return guy behind Khalif Raymond. So I really want to see Kennedy do something else on this 3rd preseason game, which Campbell said he's going to try to do, find somewhere else he could contribute to justify it, because yes, he's having a great preseason. Sure, he's doing it against 3rd string defense, but he's merited a longer look, but he's got to prove he can do something else other than being a 3rd string slot receiver.
Justin Rogers. Go ahead, brother.
It's good.
I was going to ask him about Jack Fox.
Don't get too excited, guys.
I was excited. I was ready to talk about the kicking game.
Well, save the kicking game for the next time. Give the guy a break on some kicking game. Justin, I want to ask you a big picture question about the Lions. Guys like me, I love Dan Campbell. I love the way he talks. I love the way he approaches everything. I love Brad Holmes. I feel like this is a lot. You've done this a million times. I've done this a million times. We've seen head coach after head coach, general manager after general manager. This one does feel different to me. You can tell me I'm crazy or not, but it does feel a little bit different to me. But when I see them play on the field, and granted, I'm not going to lose my mind over preseason games when there's 10, 11 starters not playing, but it does look very similar. Give Lions fans, if there's something that you can pull out of what you're watching every day at practice, is there any reason why the Lions fans should believe that this is any different than any one of the 16 times we've seen this over the past 60 years?
Well, I haven't been around for all 60, thankfully. I believe Maz almost has. I heard 59 earlier. So
exactly,
yeah, right.
Exactly.
He's been around.
And a half.
So, listen, it's way too early for me to have much of an evaluation on Holmes, right? One draft class, one free agency period where most of the free agency signed were stopgaps. Those are all mostly one-year guys, right? And I go back to Bob Quinn, right? Like, what was the little cute phrase all the Lions fans were using? And Quinn we trust, right?
That's right.
Like they were all ready to jump on the bandwagon after a little taste of success. So, we're going to have to wait and see with Holmes in his roster building. I think there is a good chance the Lions haven't hit bottom yet. They're tearing this thing down to the studs. It's going to be, listen, bottom relatively speaking with the current roster. Obviously, the 0-16 was the bottom, but they're taking that roster that went 9-7 back-to-back years and kind of was a fringe playoff contender, and they're going all the way to probably the bottom this year. It's just the reality of the talent they have, the changes they're making. But that's what a rebuild is. And I said for years, this team isn't officially committed to a rebuild until they move on from Matthew Stafford. And here we are. In terms of reasons for optimism, I would say that the culture of positivity is a unique one. And look, you're always looking for the opposite of the last coach you had, right? And so typically you see defensive coaches get fired and offensive coaches get hired, or the reverse of that. And the Lions went opposite of what they had from a cultural perspective. They went from a bully, a drill sergeant, a guy that kind of had a toxic culture throughout the building, to Campbell, who is the guy that is upbeat, is likable, not just through the roster, but through the entire building, with the way he treats human beings, from the janitors and the cooks in the building to the 53rd guy on the roster to his star player. He is the same consistent guy. The guy you see at the press conferences making these crazy quotes is just who he is. And that genuineness and that passion is going to resonate for players. Players are going to want to play hard for this guy. And I think when it gets down to free agency, word of mouth around the league, through player agents, through players just talking to each other, will get around, and guys will want to play for Dan Campbell. I genuinely believe that. Does he have the X's and O's acumen? I don't know. He's a position coach, right? That's what he was before this. He's been an assistant head coach, but what he has is the recognition of he's not afraid to hire talented guys and put them around him, guys that will challenge him in his decision-making, guys that fill his gaps of knowledge. And I think that is a sign of a great, great leader. And so, listen, I've really enjoyed covering Dan Campbell from the time he's been here. He's humble, he's thoughtful and honest with his questions, he's colorful. Like, these are all things you want as a journalist, right? If I ask a question, just give me a straight answer. Don't give me cliches, don't talk around it. And every single day I get straight answers to my questions, and sometimes I don't even know how to react. Like, it's just so weird after Patricia and Caldwell and even Schwartz, who
we've been abused.
Would always, it really, it's like I'm coming out of an abusive relationship in some ways.
Justin, so what you're saying is 3 wins this year?
I don't think that is out of the question. I really don't. And I don't want to be like, I don't want to crap on what they're trying to build, but I do. I think they're going to hit the bottom. I think their offense is going to be one of the worst in the league. Yeah. The defense will probably show some improvement. I really think that. But I think the future is in those 2022 and 2023 drafts where they've got 4 first-round picks. That's where you can see the turnaround from the on-field talent standpoint. I think culturally you're going to see a turnaround right away. Guys are going to have fun. Guys are going to like playing here, and that matters.
Here comes Spencer Rattler.
There you go. I know a guy who that would make very happy.
I know.
Justin, thanks so much. We appreciate the time. Follow him on Twitter, Justin_Rogers, Detroit News Lions beat writer. Justin, we look forward to our next time we get to chat with you.
You can talk about the kickers.
Yeah, then maybe Maz can ask you about Jake Fox next time.
And the place kicker.
We'll get more Spencer Rattler questions in for Chad and more Jack Fox questions in for Tom.
All right, JR. Thanks, man.
Thanks. All right. Thanks so much. So there you have it, guys.
That was awesome.
That was great.
I love talking Lions.
And great thing, just very candid. I mean, look, the Lions are in for some. What did Mr. T say? Prediction? Pain. We'll be back. There was a video over the weekend that our guy Easy secured. And we have Easy in studio with us right now. You have got to see this video. It is. I watched it literally 50 times.
And don't forget our runaway horse.
I watched this video 50 times. Easy is going to break this video down for us. We'll do that next. This is Armani and Edwards, The Bottom Line. And we'll talk to Braylon coming up top of the hour as well. Woodward Sports Network.
Do you know why realtors love using Hall Financial as a lender? Because of our commitment to speed and service. We have nearly 4,000 five-star reviews already. Call today, 248-308-5000, or go to callhallfirst.com.